Welcome to This Is Sport. I'm Jake Hamilton, and today we have a really special guest. He is from Team Alpha Male. He's a UFC fighter, and he's ranked number 5 in the world in the featherweight division. Please welcome to the show, Josh Emmett. Welcome to the show, man.
Cool. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No worries, no worries. So first off, I just want to congratulate you on your last performance on the 16th, and that was against Ricardo Lamas. What a fight. That shook the world. Like, how do you feel after that?
I felt, I feel great, but it's like everything's just kind of back to usual. It feels the same for me, like nothing's changed. It's I've been competing and fighting for so long, and so I feel like it was almost just like a dream, because I didn't get into like just a war that I typically do. It was like I was in and out of there really fast. It was one of the biggest fights of my career so far, and it was one of the easiest fights.
That's amazing. It was first round knockout and so brutal as well. It was great to see. I remember watching it. I was just like, wow, this guy, he means business. You know what I mean? Like he's in and out straight away. He didn't play around.
Yeah, and that's what I don't know. I knew I was capable of doing that, and I wasn't just saying I was going to go in there and shock the world, just to make people tune in. Like I truly believe that I'm one of the best fighters in the world, and I will be a world champion, and I'm that much closer to my my ultimate goal. And it was great because I actually got to, like the true fight fans know who I am, but I knew I needed to get out there. And so I can show the masses that maybe just tuned in because it was on Fox, or they're just kind of, they're not super big fans, but it was great just to get that exposure and like the road to the octagon and all the interviews and media day, just so I can get out to a bigger demographic. And, it was a long time coming. I've been with Team Alpha Male. I'm like one of the originals, the OGs. I've been with them for over a decade, since 2005, and so it was my time. And I keep saying it's my time. It's going to happen. Just keep grinding away, keep working hard, and that's why I seized the opportunity, and I knew I was going to shock the world.
That's amazing, man. Was you introduced by someone, or was it something you picked up on your own?
Yeah, so the way I got into MMA, I've always been a huge fan of the sport, and this is going back to when I was in high school, when it was like Matt Hughes was the champion, and he was always fighting. And this is when I would get the pay-per-view events with one of my best friends, Johnny. We'd watch these things, and then I think it was like 2003. Is that when the Ultimate Fighter was on? And it went mainstream after the Forrest Bonner fight. It was just crazy. So, but I was always a huge fan. So I love to compete, and I've played every single sport since I was a little kid. Like the only thing that I ever wanted to do was be a professional athlete or a police officer. And when I was talking about a pro athlete, I was thinking like, I'm going to play football in the NFL, or I'm going to play basketball. But then, like I said before, I got a little older. I didn't grow as much, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. But I excelled at wrestling, and I fell in love with wrestling, and it was an individual sport, and it's kind of similar to fighting. It's just me and one person, and you're trying to, just dominate a individual, and you have no one to blame but yourself. If you win or lose, you have to still put in the hard work. You're still cutting weight. And like I said, I excelled at that. So I went on to, I wrestled since I was a little kid. Since I wrestled in junior college. I wrestled at the 4-year level. And back in 2005, I went into Uriah Faber's Ultimate Fitness. This is when he first opened the gym. Wow. And so I was, I wanted to fight. So I went in there. I started taking just the regular classes, like MMA classes, boxing, kickboxing, all that type of stuff. And I was doing that for a few months. And Uriah came up to me, and he asked if I was interested in fighting. He says, "I see a lot of potential in you." And I said, "Yeah, I'm interested in fighting. That's why I'm here." And so he invited me to the pro classes, so pro practices. So I was doing those for a while, for a few years actually, and then I ended up getting a scholarship to wrestle at Menlo College, and I thought then it would get me better and this is all in the back of my mind. I wanted to finish school so I can get my degree in case the fighting didn't work out for me. I'd have something to fall back on.
Right.
And I knew if I went and wrestled at a 4-year college and it was, the competition was that much tougher, I knew it would get me better at fighting as well. And so I went and did that until 2010. I graduated, and I came right back to Sacramento and picked up where I left off. And I started training just, full time. And then I was working like weekend jobs at a group home just so I would work the weekends. They were like 15-hour shifts. And then so I could train all week. And I had my first amateur fight the end of 2010. And I had one more in 2011, I believe. And then I went pro. And it was a tough road though, because even my first pro fight, I broke my hand in the first round. And I was out for 10 months. I had to have surgery. I came back. I was training for my second pro fight. The last sparring session before my second pro fight, I broke my hand again in sparring. So I was out another 10 months, surgery, all this type of stuff. And I didn't even have my first amateur fight till I was in my 26 years old. So it was tough. And just with all the other injuries I've gone through and I really didn't start fighting consistently till the end of 2013. I had my second pro fight, and then 2014, and I was just going on a run. I was fighting as often as possible because I wanted to, time was not on my side. And so that's kind of how I got into the sport.
Right. Oh, well, that's amazing. So like you were 26 when you first had your first amateur fight, you said. What advice would you give to an 18-year-old Josh Emmett?
Yeah, and that's the thing too, because I truly believe everything happens for a reason. And man, when I was even going into Uriah's gym when he first opened in 2005, I think I was 20 years old, I believe. So right around that time, my best friend, he was like my mentor to me, helped me with everything, get into enroll in college, all this type of stuff. He did not want me to go and wrestle because he knew the student loans were going to be a lot. He's like, and I'm getting, I'm in the mix with the team and all this type of stuff. He wanted me to pursue that. And thinking back to it, I'm glad I went to college and then came back and went the hard route that I went, because I think if I would have gotten the UFC when I was younger, like 21, 22, man, maybe just at the time, it wouldn't have been the best. Who knows if I would even be there right now, because I would have, who knows, like maybe a little partying and stuff like that. So it would have been, I could just see myself, it could be bad. But as far as if I gave myself, looking back now when I was at that age, I just tell people, even the young generation that's coming up now, I just tell them like, man, take your time. Some of these kids, they're so good and they're so lucky to be in the position they are. They're always in such a rush. Like, I want to get fights. I want to, turn pro and do this. I tell them, like, have as much amateur fights as possible till you truly feel comfortable in there. Because it's all the same thing. My first 2 amateur fights were tougher than my first, 2 pro fights. Wow. And, yeah, they try to, and it's just like the game is kind of shady, like people are trying to set people up and they say they're green and all this type of stuff. But it's a shady business, like especially at the regional scene. If you don't have good coaches and managers looking out for you, and most people don't at that stage in their career. So I would say just take your time, work on your weaknesses. If you're a wrestler, you need to be in jiu-jitsu and really working on that, because without you even thinking, you're going to shoot, you're going to take them down. And then so work on your wrestling, what you're good at, work on your jiu-jitsu, because most likely you're going to go to the ground, even if you say you're just going to stand up. But then you also have to work on your weaknesses. So if you're not the best striker, you need to work on your striking, and just take your time, especially being that young, and just be focused, really stay focused on the task at hand, and just go, one day at a time. And you need to set goals, short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. And you need to hold yourself accountable and reach those goals, and then set new goals. So that's what I would say to my young self if I could go back.
You're doing something you love as a living, which is very rare in this world. So the fact that you're doing that at an older age, starting it from 26 onwards, you feel that because you were a bit more mature, that you're taking it a bit more seriously than obviously, you know, some of the young people in that position.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big thing for me too. Like I was saying, like if I would have got in when I was 21, I just I just don't see it being a good thing. And and now I'm just I am more mature. I know what I want, and so I'm just it's just a completely different outlook for me. You know, I want I want to win fights. I want to be the best in the world. I think I am. And now it's my time to actually go out there and do it. I want financial freedom. You know, I want to be able to buy a house for my wife and I. You know, I want to be able to help my mom and my in-laws and my, you know, my siblings and stuff like that. And just everyone that's, I don't know, been there for me since the beginning too. You know, like I have such a tight core group of friends, and a lot of them too. So I don't even have enough fingers and toes to where I can count. I know for a fact I can call, you know, 20 people off the top of my head that are so close to me that they would do anything for me. You know what I mean? And I would do the same for them. So it's, I don't know. It's awesome. And I'm going to keep that same core group of friends and nothing's ever going to change. And, you know, even if I was younger, some people get manipulated or, you know, people start coming out of the woodworks and they don't know what's going on, but I know exactly what's going on and I know exactly what I want. So I am glad that, you know, I'm a little older in the sport.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I've always wanted to ask this question. What goes through your head, if anything, when that cage door closes and you know you're about to fight someone else who wants the exact same thing as you? What goes through your head at that moment when you hear the cage door close?
For me, it's that's when I flip the switch. You know, it's going into a fight, like, and it's so weird because I am not nervous at all. I'm not even like anxious or anything. Even my first amateur fight, I remember right before I walked out, I asked my coach, because I was like, is it bad that I'm not nervous? And they're like, no, it's a good thing. And I was like, okay, good. Because like, I thought something was wrong because not that I didn't care. I wasn't, nothing was going on with me. And I thought I would be like all hyped up or like really nervous. And I think for me, it just goes back to competing my whole life. I've wrestled at nationals in front of thousands of people. When I was fighting regionally, I was the West Coast Fighting Championship champion. And man, I would pack the place out and there'd be thousands of people just for me. And then even just sparring at Team Alpha Male and being a part of that team for so long, it's really boosted my confidence. So it's like a lot of times my sparring days are 10 times harder than the fight itself. But when that when that cage door closes and the refs, you know, saying, are you ready? And he's pointing at my opponent, are you ready? I'm just like, I just turn on a switch and I just, you know, I wish my opponent the best. You know, like I always think in a perfect world, we can go in there. I want to get a quick finish. No one's seriously injured. We can both go home safe to our friends and family. But then to me, it's like, we're modern day gladiators. It's the craziest. I don't know. I just don't think people understand unless they fought. Like when it's all fight week, like when they're transporting us on the buses to the arena, when I'm in the arena warming up, and then I'm in the tunnel about to walk, and then I go into the octagon, and then that's the Coliseum, and then there's just all the fans there. It's really, it's insane, but it's like the unknowing, because I don't know. I've never sparred this person. I've never fought him. I don't know what they're capable of, their power, their speed, what's going to happen. And but for me, it's just like, man, I am not going to let someone embarrass me in front of my friends and family and wife, and let alone the world. So I'm going out there. It's either me or my opponent, and I'm going to choose myself every single time. It's like I'm in like war. We're like fighting to the death. It's just the craziest the craziest thing, and I'm going to impose my will on them. And after the fight's said and done, I hope they're okay. But at that moment, man, I'm looking to hurt them. I'm like not looking to kill them, but in a sense, a little bit. It's bizarre.
Yeah, you both want the exact same things. And obviously, as you said, you're going to choose yourself first when you're both trying to hurt each other. Simple as that. So after your last fight with Ricardo Lamas, as I said before, you shook up the rankings. You went to number 5, ranked 5th in your division. So that's a massive congratulations for that. But what's next for you? We obviously know in terms of your long-term goal, you're aiming to be the champ. You're aiming to be the best. But what's next as in, where do you go from here?
So I've been saying what makes most sense to me because Holloway and Edgar are going to fight for the title.
Right.
Ortega, he's a great fighter. He's coming off a huge win. I was actually at that fight live because it's like 3 hours from Sacramento where I live when it was in Fresno the week before my fight. He's undefeated. He has a lot of hype behind him. He's a great fighter. And then I'm coming off a huge win, and we're kind of shaking up that featherweight division. There's new faces now, and so I think it makes most sense for Ortega and I to fight for that number 1 contender spot, and then the winner of our fight fights for the title against Edgar Holloway.